Yes. Welcome one. Welcome all. That's right, baby. It's THX in your face on the Sunday evening. Yeah, we're about to purge. And what I mean by purge is we're going to purge all your feelings because we're going to talk about how we feel about the movies you are watching, whether you like it or not. Okay. So, and if you don't like what we're saying, we encourage you to get involved in the live chat right now. For anybody watching us on Instagram or Facebook, you can come check us out right now for the Mom and Movies podcast show here on YouTube on the Day One Films profile page. Right now, we're live right now. Now, with all that said, I want to introduce my beloved co-host. Oh, let me turn this down. I can hear myself talk. My beloved co-host and mother right now. Let's get her on stage. Come on now. Yeah, there we go. There's my mom right there in the flesh. Okay. Ma, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
There you go. All right. Let me give you a round of applause for putting up with me for 45 years. Let's go. Yeah. Shout out to you. All right. So
that's good.
I'm glad you're not wearing headphones. So
yeah.
So Mom, of course, you and I, one of the best conversations we have consistently is always about a new film or an old film or a new series. What do you feel? What would you like for people to take away from us just sharing and bantering over our favorite films we just watched? What do you want people to take away from Mom and Movies?
That's a good question. I think it's a few things. I'll keep it brief. One is it's nice to see two generations of a family enjoying something together or even debating without hating each other about something, being clear about, their feelings and opinions. My feelings and opinions could change. Yours could change. Who knows? Not being rigid. I think that's really, people will enjoy that. I could look here as a mom and a son. And helping people to make decisions. There's so many things available, things online, things, Facebook, all the to help people define like, oh, you know what, that sounds good. I'm going to go check that out. That kind of thing.
One thing for me that I'm hoping folks would take away is being able to see our generational differences when it comes to a project we're watching, right? Like today we're going to talk about Adolescence, but whenever we see each other, we talk about some film or something we're up to. And I always enjoy.
You're my Oscar buddy lately, so that's cool too.
Well, I always appreciate our polar differences in some cases, just because sometimes you bring up something to me that perspective I didn't see. And a lot of times we listen to our closest friends, perhaps sometimes they have the similar experiences in life, etc. And we're just hearing the same, what do you call it? Yes, ma'aming, right? Instead of really being true and deep and saying, hey, how is this piece of work really, how does it resonate to me or maybe not resonate to me? And before you go and spend the ever increasing ticket price, is it worth going to check out? Because, as you know, with the increasing of Netflix subscriptions and every other subscription, it's like, all right, if you're going to increase it, you better give us great content.
Give us quality. Yes.
Quality content, 100%. So with all that said, let's get to the first thing at hand. So, actually, let me, before we get to that, I do want to let folks know that we will be following up with this episode. This is the first episode. Congratulations for joining us. And we'll be looking at other films as well as older films, because my mom is really big in noir stuff and a lot of things I personally just wouldn't go check out. But when I hear her explain it, I'm like, okay, I become intrigued. And they're classics for a reason. And myself as a filmmaker, it's best that all of you who are out there budding filmmakers as well to at least respect the history of filmmaking and understand the amount of craftsmanship with a lot less technology that we have today. So it's a value. Go check out those old school stuff. They're great for a reason. They still pass the test of time. My mom for sure can attest for that.
For sure. A lot of the classics were made before I was born.
Hmm.
So for them to stay interesting and viable uh, all those years, like I'm 65 years old this year. So there's something to, thank you. And there's something to those films. And you can see in more modern filmmakers how they borrow from the classics all the time. They're very honest about that. Like this section, Coppola borrows from somebody else, and they know what is good, and then they'll take it and they'll put their spin on it and make it even more wonderful.
I couldn't agree more. And for those who stand out a little bit more with their cinematography, their storytelling, it's that much more impactful because it is, the more great stuff is out there, the more you could reference to and be like, hey, I saw that. I saw that shot was done by X, Y, and Z. So
Exactly.
so they kind of benefit off of each other. It's like symbiotic relationship, the old classic way, and as well as the new storytellers coming out. All
Mhm.
right, let's talk about the first topic, shall we? First
Yeah.
topic, other day. Let's get to it. Is right. Believe it or not, I have all these little banners. Okay. Um, let's first say let's talk about the series itself, real quick. Just a quick recap, right? So, for those that have perhaps been living underneath a rock, oh, let me go.
It would have to be.
Okay. Here we go. Adolescence. That's what we're going to talk about today. Now, granted, this film has been out for about what, 2 months or something like that.
It's
Uh,
going on 2 months, yeah.
yeah, beginning of 2025. So it might have been
Mhm.
January or at least top of February.
Mhm,
Um, but this was a phenomenal 4-part series on Netflix. It was a Netflix series
mhm,
starring Stephen Graham, Ashley
mhm.
Walters, Aaron Doherty, and many, many more. Who's the many more? Does it share it down here? It shares. Oh, look at that. We got Owen Cooper,
Mhm.
Christine Tremarco, Faye. I want to give people their proper respect here.
Of course.
Faye Marseille and
Mhm,
Emily Peace. I'm sure I said that wrong, but shout out to all of them. This was a great piece of work.
yeah,
Your
it's fabulous.
initial, real quick, Mom, what was
Mhm.
your initial response before you saw it? When you heard the premise, what was your initial response? I say you.
You're a good interviewer, I gotta just say that. Um, I was intrigued, because I work with families and I work with moms and babies. Adolescence can be a very tricky time for parents raising their kids and kids being the kids. And so it grabbed me that way. Plus, I thought it was just really interesting that we're dealing with a little, you know, working class white child. I was like, oh, that's very interesting because usually, if we're going to have a problem child, he's going to be one of the ethnic majority. But this little boy, I was like, what are they going to say about this angelic looking little young man? He's just 13, so he's still a boy, and I was fascinated by that at first.
Well, that definitely was interesting. What took me away, I guess, since I'm usually holding a camera, it
Mhm.
was obviously the big noise about how they filmed it, their approach to filming
Ah,
it,
that was
and
great.
specifically the camera they use, which we'll talk about later. We'll get more in depth, everybody, but the camera choice, as well as how they did it, and just mentally trying to comprehend how they pulled off each shot, right? Being that it was all
Okay.
continuous.
That's the reason that I brought the film to your attention because you hadn't seen it or anything about
Yeah.
it yet. I saw it and it blew me away. And I have a love of films. If I had one more thing to study in life, it would be films and filmmaking, but I have you, so you get to do that, and it's beautiful. And how they were how can we talk about the dynamics of that, or are we gonna talk about that later?
Yeah, we're going to talk about all that, get really deep. Flight. But yes, we're going to talk about all that later on in the episode. So,
Okay.
before we get in the mud of all that, what were the other initial response? Um, Here's the other thing that from my first reaction before I watched this was where they chose to film it in the production crew. Like it wasn't a Hollywood production.
Not at all.
And that's probably what we'll talk about that too. Probably what made this thing really great, quite
I
honestly.
agree. I agree. They would have it didn't have any of that fake Hollywood stuff in it. You really felt that you were dealing with a real situation.
Mm.
A little I keep talking about how beautiful he is. He was just a beautiful little boy. He should have been singing in the choir. He should have had a little choir robe on, and he was just a sweet little boy. And
That's
hard
what
work.
added to it. That's what made it that much more of a contrast between the action and then who you're looking at.
It's really true. That there's just like to think about what he's what's in the beginning, what he's accused of doing is a really ugly thing, and he's a very
Mm.
pretty child, and so you're like, how does that happen? And it in a loving family, like usually the kid is supposed to be all everything, no matter what color the kid is. The dad's drinking alcohol and beating the mom. No, the mom and dad love each other. They have a loving big sister,
Yes.
a very nice working class people's home. The dad is a professional doing his, I think he's a plumber. I think he's a plumber. But so, he's
Yeah. He was
paying
a
his
plumber.
bills. He's paying his bills,
Yeah.
right? And so what could have happened that to affect this little young man so badly, so deep? And
Yeah. I
take
think that was a huge impactful premise was where's that hook? Like, aha, that's why, right?
Yeah.
It can't be his friends because his friends were normal kids, It couldn't be the school, couldn't be his neighborhood, which was a regular working class family neighborhood. People knew each other and
The
whatnot.
only thing difference is that school was pretty messed up.
Oh,
The school was problematic.
well,
The
I
kids,
think that when we get to a certain point, I think you're right. But I think that was kind of a messaging of like the public school system overall.
the public
How
school
they
system.
lack the ability to deal with children today, right? And how it just like tripled down on the disconnect of adults and kids. And so
Yeah, and it was showing how even the good teachers were not being supported to be good
mm,
teachers. There were there were teachers crying for their students and good and cared for them, but they weren't getting support. And then
oh,
there was the joker who was in the bathroom for most of the time and having his class watch a movie. I'm like, why are you getting a paycheck?
well, we'll get to that. All right, let's get to the first topic today. All right.
Mhm.
Let me go right here. Okay, I don't have anything special, but you know what I'll do? No, that won't be a good one, but that's all right. We'll get to the next one. Let's go. Oh, yeah. Okay, here we go. Topic number 1, the coming of age, the then versus the now, right? Because with this film, or with this project, that was a huge how can I say, underlining tone. Like, what, obviously it's dealing with a 13-year-old man. In many cases, that's your first age of adulthood back in the day.
Right.
Also, you're a teenager officially.
Right.
You might be, really starting to ramp up in the puberty thing. I've been there, done that. And you're just fumbling and figuring out your way, and hopefully you don't land in jail while you're doing it, right? As a boy, as a young man.
Right.
And that goes back to his family. It's like you figure on paper he's pretty good to go, right?
He's willing, right.
So let me ask you this, Ma, since we obviously have a generational gap, and I say that respectfully because of our experiences, how we grew up as young people. Can you tell me or share with me, or do you have any experiences where you saw a young man, at that tender age of 13, how they perhaps coped with pain or being rejected, or just how did they cope with their emotions? What did you see when you were growing up?
Well, what I saw as I was growing up, and also what I do still see now, is that the boys are not allowed to have pain. And little babies, a little 10-month-old baby, if it cries, some silly person or some wounded person themselves is going to say, "Stop crying, be a man." Like, he's 9 months old. Not a man. So by the time you get to 13 and you're symbolically a man or religiously a man, because little Catholic boys have a confirmation and Jewish boys have their bar mitzvah at 13. That's a manhood ceremony. More indigenous people have manhood ceremonies that actually mean something, meaning that they are now have the respect and the responsibility of men in their community. In this community, we have a party or whatever for the young one, but nothing changes. You don't have any, except maybe in your own home with your family. Um, Nothing really changes. You're still going to stinky junior high school, and people are still picking on you, and it's all exactly the same, right? So, uh, and then you're 18. That means that people can send you off to war. Woohoo about that. And in 21, you can go have a drink. Woohoo! So there are no. It leads to a lot of pain. I think a young 13-year-old person being raised religiously or indigenously has a lot of respect. There is respect. Once you have done your manhood training, your mother has to talk to you differently. She can't just be on you like when you were a little boy, like you are. You get that respect as well as responsibility.
Mm.
You know.
I
So
yeah,
go
I
ahead.
see what you're saying. Like with when you're talking about the coming of age, there's a term, I forgot what it's there's a term where it's like your rite of passage.
Other passage, right?
Right. So I don't care what race or ethnic background you go back far enough, there was always a case.
Humans always
Um,
did it.
and
Humans
especially
always
for
did it.
young men, because I believe there's a responsibility with testosterone. There's a responsibility with the strength you're innated with by just being a man, right? You could destroy things much easier, and you're probably prone to wanting to do that more versus when acting out emotionally. So there's a responsibility with that, and I think when you take that away clearly, and then not replace it with something else,
Exactly.
things could happen. And unfortunately, that's probably why at younger ages, men in general are more prone to ending up in legal situations. And in a society that doesn't, or at least doesn't as much, um, is really emotionally prepared to aid and protect when you take out those rites of passage moments, as you said, religious,
Yeah,
right?
I I really agree with you, and I also think it's very important that even in those indigenous cultures where the young man now has his manhood ceremony at 13, he is still being guided. No
Mm,
one says, "Yo, you're completely on your own," I kick you out, and you've got to stand on your own. People are um, still guiding you. There's still elders who have some sense. The elders nowadays are trying to act like they're 13. So what's a kid to do? Um, so there's still a lot of guidance given to you as well as that respect. Okay, young man, you get to sit in the circle with the other men and make decisions for the community, and we confer with the women, and we do that stuff for of honesty, honestly being protecting and serving our community. How do you
mm,
do that? So
yeah,
you learn that from the elders. And
yeah,
so for a kid, and the thing for this young man in this miniseries is the people he cleaved onto kind of sort of as elders were bad examples.
yeah. Social media doesn't help,
Does not help at all.
you
And
know,
there's all kinds of things being pumped into his head that his parents didn't want him to have in
or
there.
didn't even know.
Had no clue. Had no clue.
The first,
That's why I love when they show the policeman and
mm,
his child. He
mm,
realized, he learned, I have to stay close to my son. I have to take him out to lunch. I have to spend time with him. I have to
totally,
listen to him
yeah.
because he still needs that guidance from me. He was trying to cut out of school and all that stuff. But if he could have a lunch with his dad, that would be much more productive.
Mm.
Maybe even more productive than what they were going to teach him in school that day.
Totally. I thought that was profound too when the officer started to see traits that like, whoa, my son, the young man that's in jail could be my son,
Absolutely.
if not worse, right? Because of
Ab- well,
color of skin, etc.
well,
And
he's a little black boy,
but
so
he also recognized that his son, though relative to the boy that's incarcerated at that moment,
mhm.
recognizes his innocence. Like, oh, I can say, if I fix myself, the parent took ownership. Let me just say,
Yes.
he
Yeah.
took ownership and was like, okay, I can course correct. It's not too late. He's
It's
still a
not.
good kid.
Right.
Let me just and here's the takeaway. This is so silly. He just showed up. He was just present more. Like that's the most simplest thing. That
That's
just
all
just be present. And
that's
it
all kids really want.
yeah.
You know, I would be like in the living room and I would leave the living room and your brothers would look at me like, "Where are you going?" Like they not like they were talking to me, but they just wanted me in the room with them when they
Yeah.
were like 13, 14 years old. And so it dawned on me, wow, like you think, and there's a lot of propaganda about, oh, and your kids, they're going to just not like you and get. I never felt that from my own kids. I never felt that they didn't like me or didn't want to be around me. I think there was more of fear that I would not understand them or criticize
Mm,
them,
mm,
um, but not that they didn't like their mother or didn't want her around. They
yeah.
just it's just like how do you and it's the parents' responsibility to learn how to communicate with their young one. It's not the kid's responsibility to communicate with the parents. The parent's the one who has a little more wisdom, been on the earth longer. And so know that you're going to, you know, take you guys to see Star Wars or take you guys out to eat and just spend time and talk to you. And then you find out all kinds of stuff when you shut your mouth and you just listen to what your kids are saying, like who's smoking cigarettes, who's doing this, who's doing that. They're just doing that around you. So
Well,
I,
that
I
kind of
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, Mom. That kind of leads into the next topic. Let me get to the
Okay.
next topic. Okay. Now, topic number 2 we're going to be talking about is parent-teen relationships in the series. Well, that's kind of ironic, isn't it, Ma? So, reason why I want to bring this topic up is because if you look at the dynamic or the structure of the um, protagonist's family, he
Mhm.
actually came from a family, if you look from the outside, quote unquote, regular,
Perfect.
normal,
Perfect.
right? You didn't see
Mhm.
any signs. And as the
Mhm.
series went on, you didn't see that the dad was messed up. He wasn't a drunk. He wasn't an alcoholic. The mom was, I believe, an at-home mother.
Right.
The
Look like it.
daughter was actually normal as a older teenager.
A
Like
good girl. Yeah.
they
She's
were
a
all just a regular working class family.
yeah.
And that's why what makes it even, I think that's what drew even a further contrast between the action and the young man. So I thought that was pretty awesome. But that also, what kind of a signal do you think that sends to the rest of us when you saw that displayed in this project?
One of the well, there's so much I appreciated about this series. One of the yet another thing that I appreciated was that we get to learn about the fathers. We look to
Mm,
learn about the grandfather. The grandfather beat the father, and the grandfather was horrible. And
mm,
the father made a commitment that he would never do that to his children, and he didn't. His children loved him. He was a good man, but he also there was still a missing piece because he had not learned it from his father. He still had that missing piece of not just being with his child, you know,
yeah,
just going to the school and making sure the school was a good environment for your kid. Just send your kid to school. No, you just show up unannounced and check it out what's going on in that school and make sure your kid should be in that environment. But I'm not blaming him because I really think he tried. And I really think I really from the I was just crying when the poor dad was talking about his own childhood. I was like, well, there you go.
yeah.
There you go. So the dad had holes in his fathering and he did his best, but he didn't it was not enough. It was not enough.
Um, that's I couldn't agree more because like when you look at it on paper, he's working, earning a living, has his I believe it was his self-employed business as a
Yeah,
plumber.
it was his business.
He obviously could pay for a house and the family of 4. So it's like
Right.
you figure he's good to go. He's done his duty. Um,
But he's outside of the house. He's not home when his child is on that computer. Mom was asleep and
yeah,
dad was just getting home. So
yeah.
nobody was watching him.
And that's the thing is it goes back to what you were mentioning earlier in terms of parent participation. When is enough? When is too much? I mean, life. This thing called life is just not easy, right?
It
And
is.
I think more than ever, I appreciate the fact that it brought up these kind of relationships where between the parents and the son in himself, right? Becoming that young man or becoming a man. And, throughout certain scenes, he tried to exude his control, right? With the
Right.
therapist smashing, like, I'm the one in charge, stuff like that.
Right.
So he's still trying to figure this out. And dad, technically, he's still trying to figure it out, right?
Exactly.
So,
That's what I
like, nobody is bad per se. His action and way he expressed it clearly was, but being that where it came from is a place we all can relate to.
And that I really love that you said that, because I think that's an important thing. I think a lot of people just kind of glossed over it. They're looking at what he did. And especially with youngsters are always salvageable. You can save kids. Adults maybe sometimes. But kids, I have that's my faith, that children can learn and be changed and be seen and develop healthy behaviors. And so we so I have sorrow for everybody. I have sorrow for the poor young girl who got killed. I have sorrow for her poor best friend who's grieving for her. Who knows what that grief will touch that young girl's spirit in her life. Everyone, the mom, the dad.
Totally.
And I'm so happy for the policeman and his renewed connection with his child. And
Yeah, I appreciated how that was a story in itself. There were so many stories going on, but really
yeah.
his story and obviously the family, that was pretty amazing just to see the parental dynamics. Cause I'm sure the father of the young man that was charged for this crime,
Mhm.
the police officer, like the father and the police officer were kind of the same. They're both dedicated to their craft. They're busy working. They figured they got it, right?
Right.
And so again, I think for him to recognize his son in the young man who's in jail as like, wait, that could totally be my son right now, similar age, etc. And I thought that was pretty awesome. That sense, like, that also I think gives us all hope that, hey, we can act right now. We don't have to get it, but we can at least try, right?
That's really true. I mean, another very painful moment was, so we should tell people, if you haven't seen it, we're going to spoil everything for you. So go see it, and then you'll know what we're talking about. But when the young man is first arrested, he's crying for his dad. He didn't even want his mom.
Well,
He wanted his
same with
mom
the
to be
daughter.
with.
When the daughter was in the restroom and the cop came in, she initially went to her dad. I think that was genius of the writer. The reason why is because you have the mom was on the floor, goes upstairs. You have two cops with guns with the lights on. The dad's frozen. He's the man in the household. This is his den, right?
Right.
And you have him held up in a corner with a light and a gun, and his son yells out for him. His daughter is now on the floor yelling for dad, and he can't do anything to protect him. I thought that was just visually like genius, and that's obviously probably the writer right there.
He was just stunned in and even when they got
Paralyzed.
everybody was paralyzed. And then when they get to the police station, Jamie, the young boy's name is Jamie, he's calling for his dad. I want my dad. I want my dad. And who's going to be your responsible adult? My dad, not his mom, who's been a loving mom.
Yeah.
Right? So, but it's like he didn't recognize his importance to his own children. He didn't understand that forefather.
The impact. I think what also when it came to that was in the first episode when they wanted to have him take off his pants and inspect him. The father was like face to face with a cop who's just doing his job. And he's like, I will do whatever it takes to take you out if you're going to think you're going to violate my son. And I just saw that. I felt the fury of protection, right, over his son. This is his son. He carries his name. He's his loins, all that other good traditional stuff. It's his reflection. And to let some stranger man thinking he can just wallywop and violate him and, in this particular way, in such a public way. But
Yeah.
that restraint, his face,
He wanted to put well, then he also
that
has
was
talked
acting.
about his
That was
history, and
acting.
we talk about the dad's history and how he did put his fist through walls.
Mm,
So his father, that anger that you picked up, that I'm sure anybody who was enjoying this film would get it. He's a
yeah,
tough guy. He's the guy that's in the pub. He looks like a tough British guy. You know what I mean? Hanging out with his friends at the pub and
totally.
doing,
And
you
he
know.
did look out of shape. He looked like he could hit somebody, that's for sure.
Oh no, he's
Let's
no, he's
let's
a
go
great
to
guy.
the I'm gonna pull up
Yeah,
a picture of the dad right now in this film.
yeah. Let's see
Um,
him. He's a
but
good guy.
this actor right here, okay, Stephen Graham, who was, I believe he was also the director, right?
The
I believe
writer and the director.
was absolutely phenomenal to the
Mhm.
nth degree. Nth degree. Well, here he is right here. Here's a picture of him. You see that, Ma?
Yeah,
So
that's
there he
really
is. So
yeah.
he's not out of shape. He looks like he could kill.
No,
He looks like he could get down.
he could,
And
he could.
for the restraint, like, this was a crazy part, but we'll get to that. The
Yeah,
restraint he showed in so many scenes was,
yeah.
I mean, the acting was just outstanding.
It really, really
I mean,
was.
by everybody, but boy, oh boy, I had to tip my hat. When you call acting and directing a film, this is how you do it. No, wait, I'm sorry, somebody else directed it. Hold on.
I thought
I wanna
he
be ac
directed.
I wanna be accurate right here, okay? Where's my crew? Um, it was a,
I thought he did
I
all of
think he
it.
was the hold on, Mom. Got this thing in there. And tap on his,
Was
gosh,
there like
it's kinda
other
hard.
movies that he's been in?
I just wanna make sure that,
I've seen him before, but I don't connect him with another movie.
I
But I
saw him
know.
he played Al Pacino back, not Al Pacino, Al Capone in something back in the day.
Oh, he
Uh,
would make a great Capone. Ugh.
yeah, I remember him in that, but oh, he was in Venom. Let me share this with you. YouTube, StreamYard. Okay, so you see that. So yeah, he
Mhm,
played in a few things here. Venom a couple of times, Boiler Point. I don't think I've seen Greyhound. Here's Capone. Here's the
mhm.
one that I saw him in right here.
I think I saw that one.
Biographical series. Oh, The
Mhm.
Irishman.
That he was in The Irishman. Okay,
Shout out to him.
okay.
Okay.
I
Well,
saw The Irishman.
and then he was writer, and doesn't say anything else. He's writer, actor, executive producer for Adolescence. That's what it says right here.
Okay.
If I'm wrong, I'm sure somebody will come and get me. Feel free, post a comment down below and smash the like. Okay. Then you can talk all the crap you want. Anyway, let's go back to
Well, it's interesting. He's one of those gentlemen, like, I've seen that, like, him interviewed, like, on BBC and other places.
mhm,
He has a gentleness to him. He's this is a
mm.
very gentle man. So I wonder how much in his
Oh,
writing
here's
was
the director, Philip Barantini.
okay, okay.
Shout out to him for such a great project. But yeah,
Oh,
so he was a
great.
writer actor basically.
Yeah. I
So
I
oh, I'm
can
sorry, go ahead.
really feel that he was writing a lot about things that meant a lot to him. Being a
Mm,
man who was once a boy, I can imagine that would be so, you know?
very
It's not
challenging and emotional,
yes, very, very much so.
you know. So let me get to the next topic. All right,
Yep.
real quick. Okay, next topic. We're going to discuss our favorite portion, which is the visual and storytelling choices of the creators from this project. All right. From cinematography, which is most important. And also, I really love the color grading, quite honestly. It looks really, really awesome. They did a great job. But let's get into it, Ma. All
Yeah.
right. So, this is a no brainer in terms of why we like this film. It was because of the kick ass. Here we go. Let me just turn this off. It was because of the kick ass cinematography.
For sure. For
Before
sure.
we get into it real quick, let me show people what camera they use. And it was right here. I know I have a, whoops, not that. I meant here's my, there we go. Look at that. A little late, but you know what? Better late than never. The DJI Ronin 4D. This camera right here that you could go ahead and buy yourself at DJI.com. I'm sure they'll appreciate it. And if they want to sponsor this, they sure can hit us up. But regardless, I think they used the 8K version, quite honestly. But this is the little bad boy that they used right here on set with some great, fantastic lenses, by the way. So don't think you could just grab this thing and make what they made. Okay, you gotta get some good lenses to go with it. But that is the camera right there. This little bad boy is why those shots were super smooth and stunning. All right. With that said, let me go back to my mom. Okay, Ma.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the storytelling, the visual aspects of this film. What did you like? Go.
There's so much. There's so much. Where do I begin? Well, we can begin at the beginning. The opening scene it blows your mind. The cops are kicking in the door. And like, what are they looking for? Bin Laden? Hasn't Bin Laden already been captured and done away with? And they really attacked the house very brutally. And the poor family and the poor father was like, "Why this is my 13-year-old boy. What's going on here?" And moving on in that, showing the family dynamic, showing how the young man wanted his dad to stay by his side. They had to take blood samples and whatnot for DNA, and the little boy did not want to be stuck with a pin. He was afraid of needles, and how his father was still trying to protect him. Like are you all right, son? It's gonna be all right. You can do it. Take a deep breath, whatever. They had to get samples from the poor young girl who had been killed that would be on her killer. And also, I love that from episode 1, they tell us whether he did it or not. I have talked to people and they swear, did he do it? They're still, after watching the whole thing, they're confused. And I'm like, they told you in the first episode, by the end of that first episode, you know whether he did it or not. So it's not about.
No, I appreciate that you brought that to my attention too, that they made it apparently clear up front. It's not about the actual act. It's the circumstance and the scenario behind it.
It's not a who done it. It's a why was it done.
Exactly, which made it actually even more deeper because now you have to pause and think and also find ways in your life that relates to, hey, could that have been me? Or how could that have happened? Very much a case of who did it. Well, you saw the tape. That was as clear as that's a done deal, I was actually shocked that they showed the tape the way that they did, and then immediately he broke down. Because remember, up to that point, he denied it to his dad. Are you sure? Are you sure? Right? So
that's another important piece too, because when the father realized that his son actually did do it, he turns away from his son. Like his son tries to hug him, and he turns away from his son.
Yeah.
And that's part of the problem for his son, that feeling of abandonment. His father abandoned him in that moment. He came back. He actually used his denial to help him stay by his son's side, which I think is something a parent will try to do.
I thought, first of all, when we were talking about the storytelling, the visual aspects of storytelling, aside from the acting, because we're going to touch on that in the next part of our of the show, the cinematography. That's what I really want to dig into, is the cinematography. And you're right. Soon they hit hard. They come out the gate full throttle in that first scene, the opening scene, when they go in and they go get this young man and pull him out. And the time, to me, the one time I was finally the first time I was finally able to exhale was when the boy was being driven away.
Yeah.
Like everything up to then, because, he's in a car, the guy has gas or something, his thing. I was like, this is an awkward personal moment. We're kind of voyeuristically watching with him and his partner. And then all of a sudden, as soon as the car starts moving, it's game time. And the timing was impeccable. AI couldn't have made this up. The timing of everybody and of the cinematographer to be right there, it really made you a part of those people's lives.
It was like a documentary. It was definitely it felt like a good documentary to me.
Totally.
The cameraman just happened to be in the room while all this took off around them, and they were just capturing it.
And I like that they didn't use lenses that were super duper wide and unrealistic. It felt very realistic, like you're watching it. So the lens choice also and the focal lengths that they used kept it very real and engaged, right? As if you're watching a VR goggles and you're following the story. And I thought that was super smooth too, because restricting some of the peripheral actually made it more intimate and involved. You were more engaged. So shout out to them for that particular choice as well. What's another aspect?
Doing all that in such a small space too. I mean, they're in an actual house. It's not the world's biggest house. It's not that they're in the bedroom and the bathroom. These are small spaces. It's amazing work.
The lighting was really awesome because I understand myself when it comes to lighting. Like lighting is great when you don't realize the lighting, right? And when you're watching the news and you see your newscasters, they have to be extremely well lit for obvious reasons. You could tell it's studio lighting, right?
Right.
But great lighting is when you don't notice the lighting. And they did a phenomenal job to make sure the exposure was spot on, but everything had a certain mood to it and a naturalness to it. And it never felt like a film. It felt like I was literally following these people. Even the way he panned from when they were doing an interview, the panning from left to right was so smooth and subtle, it never felt disruptive, right? Obviously, to make sure that it's all one take. It felt smooth, and I never felt like I missed something because it's pointed at one character, and then it
tracks.
Yeah, I never felt like I missed something by character B or C in the shot, even though I didn't see them. And then eventually you go to them. That was pretty cool. And
the fact that each episode is just one take, that blew my mind. I got that. I got that when I started really getting into the conversation about the film and looking at there's many wonderful documentaries on YouTube about how the film was made. And I was like, that is really, really fast. Yeah, there's quite a few.
Okay.
And like Netflix has done one, and then other people have done their own documentaries on it. And so that just builds the tension. The tension it doesn't dissipate. It just carries on until the end of the episode. Because they're just telling one story, and it's very clear they're telling one story. Episode 1 focuses on a specific focus, and number 2 and number 3, it's all different aspects of this story.
Yeah, I thought that was it was very clever and how it was written and very intentional, as you said, to tell there was a specific agenda that they covered and stuck to it throughout that entire episode.
Yeah.
And even though those 4 episodes were 4 episodes, it was one story, and it never felt broken up or like they didn't belong together. So again, shout out to the writing, and obviously the cinematography was phenomenal. And the cinematography wouldn't have been as good or impactful if the actors weren't
just the actors were top notch.
100%. And the timing, Mom, the timing when the therapist walks out and needs a breath, and then that second creepy security guard comes up, all of it, and the framing of the cinematography. I'm like, if you mess this up toward the end, you would have to redo the whole scene. Like, oh my God.
There are many episodes. I don't know exactly how much, but I know for a fact, at least one of the episodes that they redid it like 13, 14 times.
Wow.
I mean, can imagine the pressure on the actors,
And the young man who, this was his first big thing he did.
Exactly. Like he's been involved in like an acting troupe and things like that, but this is his first big acting role. He's a baby. And my big props for episode 3 for the simple reason is that child owns that episode. He owns that episode. And we get to 100%. Learn so much about it. That's the one where he's talking to the therapist. And the young lady who played the therapist, we know her. She was in the Crown.
Oh, she was in the Crown. Oh, Is this her? No. Is that fair?
Her name is Dorothy.
No. In the show, she was a doctor. I don't know if
Oh,
I know her name. Uh,
the young woman who plays a therapist. I
is
believe
it,
her last name is Dorothy.
hmm. Oh, right here.
Yes,
Erin Doherty.
Erin Doherty.
Shout
Yes,
out to her. Okay.
she was playing one of the queen's daughter.
Well, here's this young man right here.
Yeah,
Star
he's a
medium
cutie.
209. That's ridiculous. Yeah, he's definitely going places. That's for sure. That's not even
He
a question.
he got to reach his dark side in that episode. That said so much about him. And she was, other therapists, I'm sure, were all just like, she was a
Yeah,
master
right
therapist
here. Like
right
this right
there.
here.
And his body language over her, because she's a woman. He doesn't respect women. He doesn't.
Yeah.
So he is showing her dominance to her. But then she tells him that she's going to go. That's their last session. And then he becomes a child again, and he becomes an angry child.
Mm.
It's frightening. His anger is so frightening, and that anger, I would imagine, was similar to not being accepted by that young lady, and what caused him to kill her.
Mm.
You
Yeah.
know,
Well, she not only rejected him, she pushed him to the floor.
that's it.
You
But this,
know, that's
this
like not she was physically overpowered him in that instance, as well as emasculating him emotionally, right? And
he felt
rejecting him.
emasculated. Yes, he felt emasculated.
Yeah.
Because she really doesn't have the authority to do that. But that's how it felt to him, and that's what he was working from. And it felt that way when the therapist was saying he liked her, and he wanted her to like him.
Mm.
And the therapist, well, this is our last session. He was like, wait, don't you like me? Don't you like me a little? I mean,
Yeah.
I burst into tears. I really did. And
Uh,
she's just a therapist doing her job. She likes you like any other human being. You know what I mean? Um, but he was begging,
mm.
like me. At the same time, if he had, if he had the opportunity, maybe he would have hurt her too. Who knows?
Well, it's
That's how.
ironic that you say that because that leads to our next portion. Okay.
Go ahead.
All right, there we go. Our next portion of this funky podcast show we call Mom and Movies here is we're going to talk about the favorite scenes and standout performances. Okay, so you've been touching on this, Ma, but I'm going to start this portion out with what I thought. Fourth episode, when it talks about the family's relationship to all this, how are they processing it? Because that fourth episode, it's Jamie's 1 year anniversary, well, his birthday, and he's already been in jail, I think, huh?
It's a dad's birthday.
Oh, it's a dad's birthday. Hold on.
It's the dad's birthday.
Oh yeah. But he's already been in there for like a year or something like that.
Right. He'd been in jail for a year.
He's been in jail for, okay, so it's his anniversary in jail, and it's his dad's birthday, and the dad tries to save face and, hey, family, let's go out and try to do something fun, and then all of a sudden that spray paint on the van just blew up the whole day right there.
Yeah.
And I, as a man and as a father, I felt that character through and through from the beginning to the end. At first he was helpless with trying to protect them from all this, the accusations, as well as the police. And then now he's at the point where he's trying to live with it or cope or somehow function. And the entire family was right there with him in terms of how hard it was for them to process. They were all quiet and they just wasn't the same, right? And they were trying to create some sort of normalcy, right? Hey, let's go to that shop we like, or let's go out for a day. And
the wife was trying to make his breakfast, his favorite breakfast.
Totally.
Yeah.
That episode was really, to me, the most powerful because it displayed how your actions really create a ripple effect, right? It's really when you hurt someone or whatever it is you do, positive or negative, it affects those around us, especially the ones we care the most about.
Yep.
And so that's why that episode resonated to me the most, was because they didn't do anything wrong per se,
No.
right? If you look at it, they were a regular family doing regular crap, right?
Right.
So, but to see how much they are a victim of this action as well was
Absolutely.
really powerful. And again, the acting, the pacing of the cinematography really brought that home. When they're on Home Depot and everything. Oh, Jesus. Right. And the guy the kid recognized him. Oh, that was your son. Right.
Because they would probably make him, folks who are the incel groups would come and support him, and his father's like, "Ew, get away from me, get away from my son. I don't want your."
Yeah, that's right. He's like, I know who he is. Yeah, you're right. What episode stuck out to you the most?
Well, I talked a lot about episode 3. I love the whole show, but I really loved episode 3. I really loved the craft of being a therapist or a counselor, and I think it was portrayed super well. I think another part that I love very much is, I believe it's episode 2, when we see when the policeman goes to the school and he talks to the kids, and we see the young girl who was the best friend of the girl who died. And she is just forgotten. This poor girl grieving for her girlfriend. That was her person. That was her best person. And she's dead. And what often happens is there's so much energy on the person who did the crime rather than the friends and family of the person who was dead. And so, like, I was worrying for her, like, it didn't sound like she was having a really good home life, her little black girlfriend. And to have a special friend and to be close to her, and have a boy, a boy in your school, kill her. It was like this drop of humanity that was pretty. We knew about her. We saw her. There she was, being the angry black girl. She had every right in the world. But then we don't see her anymore. She's gone. And so I felt myself like worrying about her and hoping that she had some support. She didn't have support in that school. The teachers were struggling and or stupid, ridiculous people.
Well, that goes back to what I was saying earlier about the ripple effect, the cause and effect, or the consequences of our actions. And It's not just about us directly. It's kind of like in episode 4, when the father gets the message that, hey, I'm going to just plead guilty. I'm going to change my plea. That was him like releasing everybody and himself to fate, to, hey, this is what happened. I'm not going to fight it. Hopefully, perhaps giving his father permission to, how can I say, giving his father permission to heal, to begin healing, because until then, he's fighting, he's defending, he's doing it. He's got to, and if, for him to, hey, you know what? I own it. I'm going to change my plea to guilty. I did this.
Here's another piece. Take a look at that scene right there that you just mentioned.
Okay.
He tells his father he's going to plead guilty. And then what does his father do? His father stops talking. He doesn't talk anymore. Just like when his father saw him on the video and the father turns away from him. His father does that. And the boy was talking to the therapist about how his father doesn't like abuse him the way we typically see abuse. His father just won't look at him when he does certain things, that if he disappoints his father will turn away and not look at him. And
good point.
His father did that in that last scene. So it lets us know there's still a lot of work for people to do, even though now he said, okay, I've done it, but
there's still healing to be done, clearly.
And the poor daughter had to be such an adult. She's like a 17-year-old girl, 16-year-old girl. and
Yeah, I
they
thought
they,
she was
they were
be
going to move away.
acting out and everything else under the sun in the fourth episode, right? I really did. Shut up, mom. This, that, dripping and running, and she was trying to.
She's trying to keep everybody together, but the pressure on this young woman to hold her family. Now she's in, if we're looking at stereotypes, she is doing like a manly role. If looking at male stereotypes, she's holding the family together. The dad is like, I can't look at it.
Lost it. He was. It was. Yeah. I can't say it was denial. He knows what's happening, but it still cut. It was still cut very raw for him, right? The pain.
He didn't have
Because
the
remember at
words
the
for it.
last scene when he was in the bedroom. Oh, sugar honey. Yeah, I'm all right. We're ruining it. If you haven't seen this film, you clearly don't care about this film. Okay.
I warned folks that there were spoilers, so there's
But
that.
in the last scene, that was the ribbon or the bow or the cherry on top of that episode that
The
summed
dad
it
with
up.
the teddy bear.
And then he says, I tried, I did my best. He says something along those lines.
He said, I
And
should have done better.
yes. And there was no sun, and then all of a sudden just emptiness. That said it all, man. Like
Was so I
the way
was sobbing.
they moved into the room ever so slowly and almost like eerie, like you could feel him still there, that nothing has changed, everything is as is. And I don't think, and in my mind, I was like, they're never changing this room. They're never going to change. It's going to stay the way it is. And it really brought home the visceral pain that they're still trying to cope with. It was, I mean, shout out to this.
And that's what I loved about the daughter too. That the mom and dad were like, well, let's move away. Let's move somewhere. And the daughter was like, move where? Wherever we go, this is with us. Jamie's in jail, but again, there's the internet, TV, radio, and wherever we go, eventually this is going to come up, and we have to just deal with it. And that's incredibly adult for a 17-year-old person. She's a young girl, and she's not the adult. The two adults didn't say that. The kid said that.
Yeah, the mom is she's, I think, still in a state of complete shock, obviously. And the father, I believe so too. And he's beating himself up, to the last moment, right? Literally the last line. He's still beating himself up. Like, I wish I did that. I would have, and everything else. And I hope
therapy for everybody. I hope all of them get some good therapy.
Well,
who I'm really worried about is Jamie, because he's getting into fight. He's in jail, but he's fighting with other kids. So the prognosis is not good on that.
Well, yeah, he doesn't look like he holds much water either. So yeah, it doesn't look good. Well, that leads us to, hold on now. Let me get my sound effects. That leads us to, oh, come on now. Let's get to it. To the wrap up. Okay. So first of all, Mom, let's get down to the nitty gritty. For those who actually dared to stick in there with us, would you recommend this film and why?
Well, I would recommend this film. I don't think everything has to be happy and skippy dippy all the time. And there's things that are realistic. I've gone through my own stuff being the parents of my own children. And so it is a very well done reenactment of some of the hardest days in this family's life and the community's life. And it's done so artfully, and it's done with so much respect, that makes it worth watching. It's not a cartoon, and the whole world is not made of a string of cartoons. But
I'm sorry.
To see people at the top of their game, top-notch filmmaking, top-notch acting, lighting, everything, that makes it worse. That makes it worth seeing. If you want to walk away feeling happy and pappy, I have some lovely Disney films to show you. But it does what it needs to do very well, and it's got people talking about their own relationships with their kids. It's got people looking at their own relationships with the world and how the world really has. There's no place, no respectful place for teenagers in our culture. They're just kind of forgotten, and unless they do something horrible, and then they get attention, they get negative attention. So I like that. And looking at these influences that the children have, I'm not for censorship. I'm not a person that supports that at all. But the part about the parents working so hard that they didn't know what their kid was watching on TV,
Yeah,
that's the
that's
that's the
that's
key
telling.
there. Yeah. You have to know, put the filter on the TV, whatever you have to do. You're the adult, you are in charge until they are of age.
Mm.
Um, and do that. Are they're big, but they still need protection and they still need love and they still need their mommy and daddy. You have to figure out how to be there for them without babying them. There's an art to it. There's an art to being the mother of a grown-up son. Here you are in your 40s, and I'm your mom, and I can't talk to you any kind of way, um, but I can and will talk to you if I feel something needs to be talked about. So
Yeah.
yeah. So how do you? There's an art to that, and people have to claim it as an art.
Well,
Children are pieces of art. Every child born.
yes, 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 yes. Yeah, but we're not here for all that part. But now we're here about this film, not everybody's children. I can say as a
It is
filmmaker,
about everybody's children. But go
there
ahead.
was a lot of lessons to be learned watching this film. The color grading, most importantly, the cinematography, and a huge takeaway is taking chances as a storyteller. They took a chance, took this camera that, well, most of us actually can buy, right? It's
Mhm.
5,000 or up to $10,000. Maybe the cinema, the lenses cost a hell of a lot, but
Mm.
um, and created this film, creating a script to be shot in one take and to do it in such a way.
Yeah.
I mean, that is masterful stuff. And I left so inspired and rejuvenated. Another thing is that we don't have to look at Hollywood as the only place where great storytelling is happening. Actually, I think it's the inverse.
I agree.
Look
I
other
agree.
places. This was in England. I'm watching a post-apocalyptic series now, The Internaut on Netflix, and that's in Argentina. Like, just look at other places. There, people are telling great stories and pulling them off in such unique ways. One of my favorite places to watch good zombie stuff is from South Korea, and so I'm just saying that what's so beautiful about all these streaming services and this film is a great, I mean, this project is a great example, is that there is still great storytelling to be had, and that's pretty awesome if you're a indie filmmaker. So that's my takeaway.
Well, that's an important take, and it is really true that the really good stuff that's coming out for us to watch and take into ourselves is not coming from this country. And it's also coming from countries that give money to create art, like the British Film Council, and people can apply and you can get money to create things.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be dependent upon what millionaire is going to slap a couple $1 million on you to do your thing. You know, you can just do it and have it funded. And so that's always been very exciting stuff that comes out of the British Film Council or comes out from Britain. Everybody knows there's a little extra class to it, even silly things that people still do love, like Downtown Abbey and whatever.
Yeah.
But you know, they have quality, the costuming is good, the lighting is perfect. And people have an expectation of the BBC of that quality and that class.
Mm.
And I do wish that there are independent filmmakers who are concerned about that. You certainly are concerned about that, but not enough. I wish more American filmmakers would not worry about anything other than putting out classy material. You know,
Well,
it's there. It's
it's,
there. There are people who the movie didn't cost, $35 million, and it was still an excellent, excellent film. Like everything can't be an Avengers feel like it can't.
no, 100%. And it shouldn't be. That's why I'm saying indie filmmakers should be inspired that there is a marketplace for unique, new, fresh storytelling and new approaches.
Yeah.
Hollywood is no longer the holy grail of where you could get in. These
No.
streaming services are more thirstier than ever for more content due to competition. It
Right.
isn't just Netflix, Amazon, and Hulu anymore. You have Amazon Plus, Apple Plus, and every other plus. So, and they're all competing for content. So that's
Right.
great news for all of us. This should not be the only story out there that's told in such a fantastic way. I know there's so much talent out there. Now, with all that said, Mom, we need to cut this show. All right.
We do.
So, is there any last words you like to share about the podcast itself? How does this first episode feel to you?
Well, it was lots of fun. I love talking to you about films. I love talking about this particular piece of work, these episodes. I mean, they just really captured me for a long, long time. I must have watched the whole thing about 5 times. I've watched it through at least 5 times and seeing things that I hadn't seen before. I miss those days when I was a young New Yorker and I'd go out to see a movie with my friends and we'd sit in the coffee house and talk about the movie for hours and hours and hours. I miss that kind of behavior.
Can't do that today.
People don't do it. People just don't do it. And movies are expensive, blah, 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 blah. People still are afraid of catching COVID when they go home. It was a much more social event, close to seeing a play, but not exactly seeing a play. Seeing a play is a whole different experience too.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed conversating with you. And look forward to the next time we do this.
Awesome. Mom, thank you so very much. Real quick, stay right there. I'm just gonna call on over here. And I'm sorry. For our next episode, we're gonna be talking about the movie Sinners. Now, if you've been living underneath 2 big boulders in rock, you probably have already saw this at least twice, because I saw so many posts of people watching the Sinners twice at least. As if it helped them maintain their black card. Okay. But I'm gonna watch Sinners and convince my mom why she needs to as well, because it's not about the gore and the obvious violence with the vampires and whatnot, but this is a revolutionary movie in so many different ways. But we're going to talk more about that in the next episode of Mom and Movies. So if you enjoyed what you saw out there, Mom, let me put you right here. Stay right there. Hold on, let me take this off. Oh my goodness, look at the banners. If you enjoyed Mom and Movies, well, we're going to be bringing a lot more to you in the future. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or maybe some suggestions of what films we should talk about, feel free to send us an email at info@day1films.net. Now, with all that said, if you like this and you would like to see more, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that likes, and hit the bell icon to get notifications for upcoming content. Until next time, keep creative and keep watching these movies. Actually, go out and buy a ticket and watch the movies. Support the industry. All right, now, take care, everybody.